Welcome to Reviews and Book Tips with Rachel. Thanks for tuning in to this bulletin. I'm going to review 4 thriller novels. Be sure to like and subscribe below if you like my content, and make sure you watch this video to the end when I delve into what makes a thriller, what it should have and what it shouldn't have. Now for my review on The Long Game by Stephen from the United Kingdom. A deadly conspiracy, a haunted detective, a fight against the untouchable. This is a debut novel, and according to the listing on Amazon, it became an Amazon bestseller in the first 3 months. I can't see that it is now, and the way Amazon bestseller rankings work could mean all sorts of things, and not that it was selling a lot of copies. However, I loved this book and really enjoyed it, and I think it should be a bestseller. It was great. Look out for a future video by me on calling your book a bestseller. What does this actually mean? I'm not surprised that The Long Game also apparently became acclaimed across the United States and in the United Kingdom for its bold and unflinching betrayal of government corruption and systematic abuse. I love this book. I hated some of the topics, but I absolutely loved the book. The writing, the pace, the characters, the intrigue. It was gripping. It was a fantastic thriller. It was an absolute sterling find for an indie author book. At the time of this recording, it had an average rating of 4.6 out of 5 stars with 349 global ratings, and it is by far my favourite book of all the books that I reviewed this year. I'll read you part of the Amazon book description, because this summarizes what got me hooked right from the beginning. When DCI Michael Deck is caught on camera abducting a young girl, the case should be open and shut. But nearly 3 years later, he surfaces, not as a suspect, but as the head of a new police task force investigating a string of similar child exploitation crimes across London. As the investigation deepens, so do the questions. Is he a rogue officer working undercover to expose a corrupt network? Or is he orchestrating the very horrors he claims to be hunting? His team has to confront the possibility that the man leading the charge may be the monster they're trying to stop. And that is the brilliance of this book. From the first chapter, you realize that it's a cop that has potentially done something awful, apparently. And then it turns up, shock horror, that he is investigating a series of murders involving the one he was potentially responsible for. The fact that it was caught on video doesn't come out until later in the book. Right from the word go, I was doing mental gymnastics, trying to figure out whether he was really a good cop or an evil monster. The way Shepard drip-fed information and develops the plot kept me guessing right up until the end, so it was very cleverly done. I see that he is currently writing his next book, and it's probably about 6 months since I read The Long Game, so I'm ready for his next work. And the fact he's not pumping them out every month indicates to me that this book was actually written completely by a human, and his next one will be too. So to me, that's another big plus. I have no problems with people using AI a bit, but flicking them out every month using full-on AI generation can sometimes really affect the quality. Watch out for my video on that, because I'm going to look into AI writing books and how you can tell it's an AI generated book and so on in another video. This is my written review of The Long Game. A gutsy conspiracy thriller, The Long Game is a book that will stay in your mind after you turn the last page. This novel pulled on my heartstrings and had me captivated from start to finish. The only boring part of this book was a politician's speech, and I'm serious, it was riveting apart from that one speech. The theme of suspicion and possible betrayal ran deep throughout this thriller. I was constantly trying to work out what was going on with the protagonist right up until the very end. The protagonist's relationships and interactions with his team were very well developed, which created tensions and angst as the story unfolded. One of my favourite characters was the police commissioner, who had a resolve of steel, which was amplified by the ending. Descriptive scene setting and character reflection was offset by realistic dialogue and clearly explained action scenes. I thoroughly enjoyed The Long Game, and fans of this genre will revel in it. A definite 5 stars. Now for my next one. A complex, detailed thriller. A moral conundrum. A Reed Stanton thriller by C.S. Runn. This was definitely a thriller. The plot was complex, clever, and events and background full of detail. It contained a lot of violence, but the story kept me interested as it intensified. I think the moral anguish Reed was experiencing should have been more consistent throughout the entire book. This would have added depth to his character and made his struggle seem more real. The book began by Reed seeking counsel from a priest due to all the killing he had had to do as a special forces soldier in the Middle East. However, this angst seemed to disappear until the very end. At times, I felt like I was being told rather than shown what was happening or what the characters were feeling. And the voice was more passive rather than active at times. There could have been a bit more description using the senses in places. Keeping the reader as well as Reed in the dark about why he was being targeted would have added more intrigue to the story. However, after saying all this, the plot was really skillfully woven, exciting, and it worked well. And overall, I enjoyed this novel. I love the ending. It was a lovely wrap of the story after a violent and tumultuous ride. 4 stars. My next one, a thought-provoking and intriguing read, Final Term by M.E. Oates. Final Term is an intriguing, clever story written through the eyes of a naive psychiatrist who has an obsession with the First Lady of the United States. This obsession results in him doing things he normally wouldn't, and an ever-present self-psychoanalysis reflection throughout the book. It is a slightly satirical, debased fictional expose of political corruption and cold-hearted deception. It is almost a lesson in where your obsessions could lead you if you don't keep them in check. There are some touching moments as Pete's friendship with the president develops and remains intact the entire novel. This is in contrast to other relationships with his partners in crime, which are marred by betrayal. The world of political corruption, the defects of people we hold highly, and the deception of the public are topics to think about while reading this book. Final Term is a thought-provoking, eye-opening, and intriguing read. 5 stars. An action-packed read. A Collision of Tides by John Paul Rye. A dark maritime thriller of terror and seduction. This novel is an intriguingly complex look into a conspiracy, possibly mirroring some things actually going on in our world to some extent. It is an action-packed read touching on betrayal and blackmail on an international scale. In the year 2035, 2 massive ships collide in the North Sea, but this isn't just a maritime tragedy, it's the ignition point for a global conspiracy. It's not about the ships. It's about who wants them to sink. The plot involves system tampering, the erasing of identities, the secret mechanisms of politics, cyber warfare, seduction, and blackmail. One of the characters was lured into a sexual blackmail situation which explained her sabotage actions. This situation was not really resolved in the story, which to me made the inclusion of graphic seduction and control scenes more of a sex grab rather than adding to the story. Be warned, some of these scenes are X-rated and I skipped over them. Overall, the characters are well developed and you get inside their heads, which I love. However, the descriptions and the action scenes are at times repetitive and drawn out. The plotline is well developed and fast moving. Sometimes it is not clear who is saying what. However, this was an interesting read which will appeal to lovers of complex, dark thrillers. 4 stars. Now for tips for what makes a good thriller. Number 1. Great characterization, memorable main protagonists. Number 2. Plausible characters, in other words, characters that are believable and you could meet in real life. They are relatable and have flaws just like us. Make them emotionally deep. Number 3. These characters need to be married to a captivating, compelling plot, with twists in every scene. The plot should be well planned and cohesive. Number 4. Avoid superfluous exposition, description that goes on, and dialogue that is meaningless and full of things not relevant to the narrative. That slows it down big time. Make the description and action vivid but not overwhelming. Number 5. Maintain focus throughout. Limit flashbacks and dreams which halt the flow and urgency. Number 6. Excellent editing. Use tools, people, paid editors. Make sure the text is readable and of a high standard of English, and get a better reader to do an engagement check. On the topic of better and copy reading, I offer a service via Fiverr for those things. I'll post a link in the comments below. Number 7. Surprise the reader to keep them engaged. Try to avoid predictable plots and events. Number 8. Thrillers should have high stakes, threats of serious consequences if things go wrong, and conflict. The threat to the main protagonist should be clear. Number 9. There should be a difficult choice for the main protagonist that keeps you on the edge of your seat. What will they do? What will happen? What should they choose? How will they decide? Number 10. Using a situation which includes a race against time can help the pace keep fast. Number 11. Craft a carefully chosen ending that gives some closure. No dramatic full cliffhangers. I would say Collision of Ties met nearly all of the above criteria, except it had overwhelming action scenes, which were too much in my opinion. The Long Game completely nailed the criteria. Final Term had a bit much rambling at times, especially at the beginning, but everything else was excellent. A Moral Conundrum needed improvements in the description. The character struggles with killing and was a little predictable at times, but delivered on everything else. Thank you for watching or listening. Be sure to look me up on Fiverr via the link in the comments below if you want some better reading or copy editing. Please like and subscribe if you like my content. And watch out for my upcoming videos on the use of AI book writing and what being an Amazon bestseller means, and other book reviews on other genres and other book tips.